Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Ed Talks. I'm with my friend Kevin Briggs. Kevin, welcome to Ed Talks.
Ed, thank you so much for having me. I've really been looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Kevin, you and I have known each other for a long time. We're both based out of Dallas, Fort Worth, so we've been in healthcare. So we've been around the block a couple times. One of the first times I ever met you, you talked about this life calling, this mission that you've had over the last 15 years or so, related to Texas de Peru. And so I wanted to dig a little deeper with you and share all the fine work that you're doing. So again,
Thank you.
thanks
I'm
for
very
being
happy to.
part of the program. Yeah. So tell us, like, how did that all start? How did you get involved with that?
Well, I've been in healthcare IT in one form or another for about the last 25 or 30 years, and was literally having lunch with a client, Jay Petersmith, over in Fort Worth. And the conversation turned to medical missions, and one of the doctors has been involved with Doctors Without Borders. And as it turns out, I've had a relationship going back about 30 years with a clinic in Peru, and that's vital to this whole thing. Additionally, I had been to Joplin, Missouri as a volunteer, and the things that I saw there were really, really kind of remarkable. And I think there were some actual lessons that made it possible for me to do something like this as well. Namely, there are tons and tons of people that come every 5 minutes with loads of water in the back of their car, or blankets, or canned goods, or something like that, doing what they can. They're not qualified as caregivers. They're not qualified as disaster aid workers or whatnot. They're regular human beings like you and me saying, I can help, loading up their car and going and helping for a little bit and then going home. And that was kind of an eye-opening exercise for me. And so when we had this lunch with at the folks at JP John Petersmith, I remember the relationship I had going back with the clinic, and said, well, wait a second, I'm in healthcare. I know doctors. I've got some organizational skills. I wonder if I could do something like this. So immediately uh, started calling my friends and colleagues, and very few people said that there was a dumb idea. And before long, we had to do it.
Very cool. So tell us about that first experience.
So there were so many lessons learned from that because we really didn't know what we were doing. And thank goodness for the Kaziwasi clinic that we work with. They really provide good guardrails for us to be successful no matter what happened. And we got there on a Saturday, and that's kind of the beauty of what we do. It's easy to leave Dallas in the evening on a Friday, fly all night, and then get to the clinic by lunchtime the next day, learn how to breathe again that afternoon because it's high altitude in the Cusco area, and then unload all of our supplies and get ready for the next day's surgeries. When we walked to the clinic at about 7 in the morning, it's about a 5-block walk, and we rounded the corner. There were at least 200 people lined up outside of the clinic waiting for us to get there. And the first ones arrived at the front of that line at 2 a.m. in the morning from all over the place. They come from many, many, many miles away. And they waited all night in that 40-degree weather. And it's chilly,
Yeah.
just for the hope that they might be able to get a surgery that might help their condition.
Man, it really makes you reflect on how much we take for granted, right? In the US and different parts of the West where healthcare is abundant. But yeah, then you run into situations that are quite common throughout the world where people are desperate to have anywhere near the level of care we receive.
Ed, you're exactly right. Let me tell you a story. It's easy to get around down there. People will have little vans and minivans and whatnot. And for a Soleil or two, you can get 5 miles down the road. And there was a bit of a strike one year that we were down there. So patients had a hard time getting in the office. And we had one patient that made it there, and she is about a 55-year-old woman, and she had a pelvic floor issue stemming from childbirth that she's been living with all of her life. And she hiked 5 miles through the mountains there. And I know you've been there. It's very hilly and very steep and very mountainous. And in the middle of the night, she hiked 5 miles through the mountains to get to our clinic, because if she didn't have that procedure when we were there, she wasn't going to have that procedure.
So, Kevin, this sounds pretty remarkable. So, we'll talk about the clinician aspect in a minute. So, obviously, you have clinician volunteers that come in and provide very specialized services. What about someone maybe like myself that doesn't really have much of a clinical background? And can I bring like teenagers with me?
We have space on our teams for family members, particularly teenagers that are starting to show some maturity. I personally, as a practice, want a parent with us when we do have a teenager. We have a lot of kids that are interested in pre-health careers and pre-med careers that make the trip down. We even have a formal program for pre-med students that are trying to do clinical job shadowing hours. But I know from my own experience having my kids go down, I've had 2 of my 3 kids make the trip, and they made it when they were teenagers. It was they don't get everything, but it really does give them a healthy perspective that they didn't have in the bubble here in North Texas.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So how someone listening, watching, how do they get more information? Like, because they might be interested in participating.
Probably the best way is to reach out to us at www.texasdayperu.org. Lots of information there, and there's also links there to schedule a little bit of time on my calendar so we can talk about it.
Yeah. And if you're a clinician, right, you would eat that up.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of material there for clinicians to learn about what we're doing there. I've got even some videos from doctors who have made the trip before that I think doctors are finding helpful to look at. But again, go to that site. There's a special link to schedule time with me, and we can have a conversation with me and the other surgeons who've been down there in the past, and go from there.
Have some people combine this with like doing Machu Picchu or something like that? Like they'll do the mission work for a bit and then head over and climb Machu Picchu, or what's the typical stay like?
We typically combine that. So we'll arrive, like I said, we leave Dallas at Friday night, arrive at the clinic Saturday. Sometimes I'll have a doctor go a little early to begin triaging patients. We'll do surgery Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we'll say goodbye to our last patients Thursday afternoon. We'll go to Machu Picchu Friday, visit Cusco, and then come home on Sunday. And we have some folks that will say goodbye to us as a team at that point and go hike the Inca Trail. We do just a little bit of the Inca Trail that is there at the park.
Yeah, so they can really customize this
Absolutely.
trip.
Absolutely.
So,
and there's a reason Machu Picchu is on everybody's bucket list. Yeah. And there's just so much to see there. And it's not just a ruin over here. The whole place is architecture that's still being used to farm those hillsides today. It's just a remarkable place.
Kevin, I know you have a book, and we're going to put that in the show notes related to this, but tell us one story that's top of mind.
So there's a lot of leadership lessons from the book, and some are fairly good and some unique and weird, but all the mistakes that we've ever made on our trip, I've made most of them personally. As an example, now, Ed, let me ask you a question. How many times have you found yourself in a South American airport, minding your own business, trying to go through customs, and suddenly you find yourself under arrest for holding a gun?
Thankfully, never, but something tells me you've experienced that.
Well, who hasn't had that experience? Yeah, that happened to me, and it happened to my son. It was my fault. I should have told him. We had little cryo guns, which are there for freezing off lesions. And I didn't alert the customs folks immediately. And they said, he has a gun. I was like, no, I don't have a gun. It's not a gun. With a little explaining, everything was cool after that. But the key leadership lesson from that, mistakes will absolutely be made. Learn from them and move on.
So, Kevin, how many years have you been doing this? And is this something that you're going to continue doing in perpetuity?
We're pushing 15 years now. I think 2012 was when we first started. 2012 was our first team down there. I don't see any reason to stop. This is kind of what I want to do into my retirement years. So yeah, I don't see this stopping. The clinic, in fact, is opening a new clinic facility that's a good almost 2.5, 3 times as big as the clinic we have. The clinic's been in operation for 20 years. And like I said, they see about 30,000 patients per year. We're expanding the scope of services that we're doing there. So it's very sustainable.
Yeah.
And I can't stress that enough. If we just showed up with a tent and a surgical tray, this isn't something we can do. The trust of the clinic, the clinic having the facilities to do the work that we do and have them be able to work with the patients before and after we're there. That's the critical piece that we want to do things like this in other parts of the world. And it's no coincidence that next to every bucket list destination, there's a lot of poor people that need help right next to it. But I very much want to do this into my retirement years.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've done similar things, not to the extent that you have and for the continuous length of time that you've done it. But as you know, it really helps change your perspective. It widens your worldview. It's great for your teens, and you're adding value to society. And then you get to do something fun, right? If you do the Inca Trail or just go see Machu Picchu. So this is just amazing. We'll put all the information, Kevin, how to contact you in the show notes. But this is amazing. And thank you for sharing sort of your life mission. It really has impacted, as you know, and that's the beauty of it, right? Those you don't know, that you've impacted thousands and thousands of people's lives. So thanks for sharing your story.
And you're exactly right. I'm not clinically trained. I'm not, a surgeon with great skills or anything like that. But the point is you don't have to be. You can attract people who do have those skills to your teams and you can accomplish something. I would encourage folks to find their own little passion projects. And if they don't have a passion project, join mine for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very well stated. I always tell people that as well in general. Like, if you don't have a mission, if you don't know what your mission is, have a vision, follow someone who does in the interim, and eventually you'll get yours as well. So, Kevin, thanks again. You're a great person and you're doing a great thing for humanity.